Hello, everybody. Today we're going to build a bird feeder, more specifically a Niger feeder. And I like the Niger because it attracts a smaller bird. It's a little more expensive seed, and the problem that I've had in the past with the store-bought feeders or even some of the ones that I built is that they dispense the food a little too quick. Niger, or some people call it thistle. It's not thistle. It's actually Niger, Niger. Or there's another company that's I guess they've put a trademark on it. Nyjer, I think is how they spell it. But either way, it's called Niger, and it's a seed from a flower, but it's actually imported into this country and it's sterilized before it's imported, so it won't grow if it hits the ground. To me, that's one of the nice things about Niger. Anyway, what I came up with, they've got some sock feeders, they've got some little, they call them thistle feeders, and they've got holes perforated in the side of the tube. And what I find, these little things are they're like smaller than a grain of rice. So when they pluck them out of that hole, 8 or 10 kernels, seeds, whatever you call them, fall out, and so a lot of it ends up on the ground. And the primary bird that I have here is the goldfinch, and they don't much care to go on the ground and eat the stuff. They're kind of picky. They don't like it if it's wet, and there's a few other things. Um, they make a sock feeder that works pretty well. The sock feeder, it lasts for about a season, and you can refill it. This is kind of a twist on that. So I do it with PVC, and I'll show you what I do and how I do it. And for me, it's been a pretty good success. As far as durability, I don't know how long it's going to last, but it seems to be slowing down the amount of food that falls onto the ground. So I'll go out in my shop and we'll take a look at a couple of ways to do this. We're out here at my nasty project filled workbench. I've got about 8 or 10 projects midstream on the bench. So the choice was clean the bench off and make the video, or clean the bench off and don't make the video. And by the time you get ready to make the video, the bench will be dirty again. So just make the video. What this is just 1 inch PVC. And what I did, this is the lid off of a pop bottle. This is the lid off of a pop bottle. So happens I know a guy with a lathe, and I got him to cut this out. These won't fit onto the top of the pop bottle. You don't have to know a guy with a lathe to do this, but it helps. So what you can do, if you don't have a lathe, if you have a heat gun, you can actually heat this up, and I'll show you how that part of it works. Gonna turn the heat gun on, and I'm just gonna put this piece of PVC and rotate it in front of the heat gun. And it won't take too long, and we'll have this melted to the point we can put it on to the top of the pop bottle. Keeping in mind that the top of the pop bottle is also plastic. It's HDPE, high density polyethylene. So I fill the bottle up with water so that we can keep the lid cooled off. If you've never warmed up PVC before, as long as you keep it moving, you won't scorch it. And you can test it by pushing it onto a firm surface, and you will know when it's heated up sufficiently. Now what I did, uh, it's a bit of a large step to push this on all at once. You can do it, but I used a stepper drill. If you don't know what a stepper drill is, that's what it is. If you don't have one of these, if you do a lot of stuff, it's a very handy tool to have. And as you can see, there's a small step that I cut into the end of that just to give me a head start on putting it on the bottle. And I don't know, I've been doing this for a minute or a minute and a half, something like that. And as you can see, when I push on this, it flexes. So I think it's probably ready. And what we'll do, stick the bottle over here so you can see it. turn off my heat gun, and just pushes right on. And you let that cool. I generally run it underwater, cool it off as quickly as I can so I don't distort the lid. But it's as easy as that. I ran inside and cooled that off a little bit so I didn't deform the lid. As you will find out, it's not on there uh, so much that you can't take it off. So you'll have to glue this on, and you'll need two of these. So I've done both ends on this one, and once it cools off, then it'll retain that shape. You will have to glue these lids in. The other thing you're going to want to do, one of the pop bottle lids, and it doesn't seem to matter what brand it is. That's a Pepsi product. I've got other Coke products. The lids seem to be interchangeable on all of these things. I'll leave one. Um, I put two weep holes in there in case rainwater gets inside there, it can get out. And these you can make these long skinny holes. If you know a guy with a milling machine, I do, and got him to cut these little slots in there for me. You don't have to know a guy with a milling machine, but it helps. But you could just drill holes in there. These two holes are going to be for the perches for the birds to sit on. So we'll go through it with this one, and I'll show you a little more what we got going. So cut a hole in this, drilled a couple of holes in this, pop this one into this end, and pop this one into this end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little super glue just to get this over with. You can use probably hot glue. Haven't ever tried that. I used excuse me. I used epoxy last time. So we'll do this, and I'll let that set up. I'm gonna cut the little grooves in here, and then we'll. And you can use whatever size perch material you want. Um, these you can use old chopsticks. You can use little wooden dowel rods. These are hardwood dowel rods here. Don't remember if these were actually shish kebab skewers or if these were actual dowel rods. Once I chop them up, they just look like a dowel rod. So don't know the origin. I have no idea how well you're going to be able to see this, but I just threw this on the milling machine, and I'm going to cut a couple of slots in here. And personal opinion, I think you can just drill holes. You don't have to cut the slots. If you don't know anybody with a milling machine, you can just cut slots in it. Drill holes in it. What I think is the larger the diameter of the holes, the better. And the reason I say that is it keeps the birds from pecking in the same place on every time they peck at it. So see if I can get a shot of that. And then I don't really think you need to watch me cut all of those, because once you've seen somebody cut a inch and a quarter slot in a piece of PVC with a milling machine, I think probably once is enough. Just another thought: if you don't have a friend with a milling machine, they make these little drill bits. The drill bit on the end, more like a rasp on the inside. Works good on wood. Works good on plastic. So if you need to cut grooves, you just drill the hole through there, then move your drill. And you got to have a little skill involved, and go slow, but it'll work. This is what everything looks like. The only thing I've got left now is to drill the holes for the perches, and that's just going to be based on whatever size drill bit that you can, or whatever piece of dowel rod you're going to use. You could even use a stick off of a tree if you wanted to. Not that a stick off a tree is going to make PVC look natural, but you could do it. I think drilling these holes is be just about as much fun as watching me mill this thing. So I'm going to go drill the holes, and I'll be right back. Got the holes drilled, and what I did, I alternate where they go. They do go all the way through, but that gives the birds on this perch availability to this hole and this hole, this hole and this hole. Some birds seem to be right-handed, some seem to be left-handed. I let them decide where they want to eat, and it gives them a little privacy instead of stacking the perches vertically. I go every other one, so you have two birds here, two birds here, two birds up here, and that works out pretty good. I glue these in with super glue. Works really well. Um, I had never heard of this stuff before, but what I use is stick fast, and I'm not endorsing them. It works for me. They don't even know who I am, so it's not a paid commercial. But what I like is I have this activator, and you put that on, and then you give it a little spritz with this stuff, and then just literally in seconds you've got a bond. And what I use it for normally, when I make one of these pins, I actually use it for a finish on these pins. Now, whoever heard of using super glue for a finish? But anyway, that started off as a big rectangle of acrylic, and you can see the finish turns out pretty good. You can see the reflection of my LEDs overhead. So it's really neat stuff. Now on to putting the mesh on. Now what I'm going to use is a poofy or a foofy or whatever you call these things. I have no idea what they are, but you take a shower with them. So if you take the little tie off of the middle of them, you get all of this net material, and this is what I'm going to use. And you just cut this stuff any way you want. I just cut it a little longer than what this is. And whatever you have, pair of scissors, if you've got a fairly decent set of cutters, just about anything you want to use will cut this stuff. So this is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to stretch this around it, and the netting is going to make enough of a passage that they can get the nyjer seed through it, but then the next one behind it doesn't fall out as well. Once I get this stretched over, and any way you want to secure this, you can actually cut this and then put a little seam of tape on it or whatever. I'm going to use some super glue because I'm in a hurry. Put this stuff on here just to hold this while I twist it into place. Kind of smear that around just a little bit, and then hit it with the activator. So that I don't super glue my fingers to anything. And as you can see, it's already set up. So now all we need to do is just I stretch it out and start twisting it around. That first little piece that I glued on kind of keeps everything in place. And you don't have to do that, but it helps. For anybody that doesn't know the But It Helps reference, there's a guy that has a channel. That's the name of his channel, But It Helps. That guy is hilarious. I'll include a link to one of his videos below. So that's it, really. And then I'll take a piece of tape and tape all of this into place and put the pegs through here, and we'll take a look at it in a minute. By the way, I found the mystery source. These things are called bamboo marshmallow roasting sticks. They're 30 inches long. There's 12 of them in a pack. And if I remember correctly, I got these at Walmart, and they were, I think, $1 for this whole bag. And you just cut it into little pieces. I realize most people won't need to know how to do this. I like the coping saw because it's got a nice small fine tooth blade, so there's not too much to clean up. A couple of whacks and it's done. You can whittle it with a knife. It doesn't make any difference how you do this. But for people that haven't ever had a tool in their hand, maybe that helps somebody. Here's what this piece looks like when it's all put together and glued and taped and what have you. That's where your seed goes in. We'll work on the bottle next. I don't know if you can see that finch very well from here, but that's one of our native goldfinch. And that's why I build these things. Doubt if Okay, this is not a real complicated thing. Um, all I did was take a bottle, and it doesn't matter, that happened to be a water bottle, and I poke a little hole in the bottom of it. This is just a piece of clothes hanger. Bend a crook into the end of it. Let's see if we can get that in there at least. Oh, yeah, there you go. Little crook in there so it won't come back through the hole in the bottom. And then I just shape that to whatever I want to hang it on. So I'm going to fill this up really quick and I'll be right back. So here's what this thing looks like on the tree, and seems to work okay. Few observations that I've made. I don't measure anything when I'm doing a project like this. I use the TLAR method. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's called That Looks About Right. So I didn't measure any of the sticks, the holes, none of it's really needed to be standard. I find this to be true. I've checked with the finches, and none of mine. These are native to Colorado, but none of mine know how to run a micrometer or a tape measure, and they don't seem to be offended by the fact that those three sticks are not all exactly the same size. I don't think yours will be either. One of the things I do, one of the things I've noticed about finches is they are a bit particular about a new feeder. They don't know for sure what it is when you change something up. So what I will do is I will actually, when I load the feeder, we I'll actually put a few seeds in the mesh. Makes it easier for them to find. Once they find those, they'll see the others and they'll start to dig for them. About it. So hope you guys enjoyed this. If anybody's interested in seeing some of the footage of the finches, I think I've come up with a camera system where I can record those guys. I don't come out here when they're out here that often, or I don't come off the porch. I guess basic reason that I don't come out here very often, they don't let me get very close to them. So anybody interested in seeing these things up close, leave it in the comments, and next time I'm home, I'll try to set up a camera out here and capture these guys. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Share this with somebody you think might be interested. Tell me why, if you like it. Tell me if you don't, why you don't. Appreciate everybody's participation, and we'll catch you down the road.